I get this question a lot, so here are some of my recommendations for my favorite books about psychology. So I just finished The Power of Us, which is a really good book on the psychology of groups, from the more positive side of our tendency to associate with a group to the more negative side, conformity, cults, political polarization. Thinking Fast and Slow is a really good book on cognitive biases and our tendency to be irrational in sometimes pretty predictable ways. The Righteous Mind is a really good book about political and moral psychology that helps explain why people are so divided. Jonathan Haidt is also just a masterful writer with a really good use of metaphorical language. Behave is a really masterful tour de force, 800-page book that takes a really broad view of human nature. It also has a few chapters on free will at the end that kind of made me stop believing in free will, or at least really changed my perspective on it. So I first read this book in my social psychology class in undergrad. It's all about influence and the science of how we persuade people. It's from the 80s, but its findings have really held up over the years. So Paul Bloom didn't fully convince me to be against empathy, but he uses social psychological research to make a really compelling case for the downsides of empathy. It makes us care about the what instead of the many. It makes us care about people who are similar to us instead of people who are different from us, and can sometimes be a very bad guide for moral judgment. The War for Kindness presents a more optimistic perspective of empathy and talks about ways we can increase it. And I recommend reading this book alongside Against Empathy. They really complement each other well. So this is a bit outside of psychology, but Ezra Klein draws on a lot of good social psychological research to help explain why the United States is so polarized now. This book is also more in the realm of linguistics, but it really got me interested in the human mind and changed the way I thought about language. The authors essentially say that the metaphors we use in our everyday language are not just a poetic device. Instead, we rely on simple metaphors to think about abstract concepts like time. Now, this is definitely an incomplete list, so please let me know if you have more recommendations in the comments. I'm a psychology researcher. Follow to learn more about psychology.